Yo, what's up, dogs? I'm here to talk about the Iron Claw. I went and saw it last night with my friend who's also a pro wrestling fan just like myself, and he brought his wife along to see sexy Zac Efron. And I have to be honest with you, the guy's body was absolutely amazing. I can't believe it. I want to know how much work he put into doing that because it looked amazing. Honestly, just like everyone's body looked great in this film. Like I was surprised. I was like, how long were you guys in the gym for? So, that being said, I went for 6:40. I got my concessions. Didn't need a nap because I've actually been sleeping really good. 20 people or so in the theater. I saw it in the standard definition, and honestly, it was a great time. I enjoyed every single minute of it. I probably would give this movie a 4 out of 5 on my letterbox. And I only have one little audience thing to mention, and I actually didn't mind it at all. But whenever there was a wrestling match going on screen, right, the people behind me were like oohing and awing at like the bumps that were happening, and I thought that was just fun. Like they were really invested in the wrestling match that was on the film, and I thought that was fun. However, they did talk a little too much, and someone in the back hushed them. And I thought, yeah, you were talking a little too much. But I did enjoy their enthusiasm for the wrestling, okay? So, and like I mentioned, I am a pro wrestling fan. So going into this movie, I did know about the Von Erich curse. I wouldn't say I was like, I didn't know every single thing about it. So this was a nice refresher. And I think if you don't know anything about the Von Erich curse, I would honestly tell you, don't search it up. Don't Google it. Don't do any of that. Go and see this movie and enjoy it, and enjoy the presentation of this biography that they put together. And then when you come home, do some Googling. There are certain things in the movie that are omitted, and that's on my list for bad. But it's not like it's a horrible thing. It's just like, you'll see. I'll talk about it when I get to the bads, okay? So I got my list here. We've got a lot written down. We're going to go over the good, the bad, and the ugly. Honestly, there's no ugly. There really is no bad. This movie is damn good. I recommend it for everybody to go and see it. But let's get going. And also, spoiler warning, just in case I might say something about the story, but hopefully I don't. But here we go, okay? Let's start breaking it down. This movie is written and directed by Sean Durkin. It runs for about 2 hours and 15 minutes, and it's a sport drama biopic, okay? It takes place in Texas. I can't remember what town. Probably maybe Dallas, Texas. And it roughly takes place between 1970, I think, early 70s to the late 80s. So the first thing I really like about this movie is the family, okay? This whole movie is about this family. Every single son, the father, the mother, even the love interest, Pam, right, who marries into the family. All of these people are so awesome. And we follow Kevin Von Erich, played by Zac Efron, and we see his trials and tribulations of being a man, first of all, being a wrestler, being a brother, right? He's not the oldest; he's the oldest brother by default, which is part of the story. And he's struggling. There's so many emotions, and it's shared throughout. It's not just him; like he's carrying the emotional load because of what he goes through, and we follow him. He is the main person that we follow through this entire movie, and we get to see him being bombarded by brotherly love. His family is very important to him. His brothers are super important to him, and it really comes across, especially like there's a scene like when his brother Kerry Von Erich comes back because he can't participate in the Olympics, which is a story point that I didn't even know that. I wasn't born yet, so I didn't even know that happened in real life. Who's played by Jeremy Allen White, comes back, and like you just see the love, He's like so happy to see his brother. He's back from training for the Olympics, and like the whole family unit, like the four brothers, and each brother is different in their own way. Like you have Kevin, who's like the body guy. He's got big muscles, looks great, perfect physique. Not good on the mic, Then you have the other brother, David Von Erich, played by Harris Dickinson, and doesn't have the greatest body, a little bit taller. He's the middle brother, and great on the mic. And he has a certain different vibe about him, you know what I'm saying? And then you have the youngest brother, who is Michael Von Erich, played by Stanley Simmons, and he's the young kid. He doesn't really want to be a wrestler. He wants to focus on his music career and stuff like that. But he's kind of forced into wrestling because of his father, Fritz von Erich, played by Holt McCallany. And Fritz is a beast of a man. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's such an intimidating figure, and he presents a certain masculinity that you can look at as, is it toxic, or is it like, man, I sat there like, guys, that father-son relationship between Fritz and Kevin is like, it's just nuts, man. Like, the masculinity, like, that's the second thing that's like my second favorite thing about this movie, is the emotions and thoughts that it makes you think, especially when it comes to masculinity. And if you were raised in that type of a house, like myself, I didn't have brothers. I had a younger sister, but the way your father spoke to you and the way Fritz speaks to his boys, it was like, I was like, oh my God, this is how my dad would talk to me, you know what I'm saying? And you just kind of look at it and be like, is the curse because of the father and his drive and his determination and what he does to the boys by pushing this whole, like, you got to be strong, you got to suck it up, we don't cry in this house. And you sit there and think, like, are those traits in a man toxic, or is it the presentation of those traits toxic? And also, is the curse itself generational trauma from his father's father, right? Like, we don't know how Fritz was raised. We don't know what Grandpa was doing, right? Like, we don't know that relationship, so we don't know how that generational toxicity and trauma was passed down to Fritz, and now he's passing that down to his boys. But his boys, honestly, are so, like, positive. You know what I'm saying? So, like, they are kind of like, to me, like the Three Musketeers. They have their father, their patriarchy, and they have the lessons that he's teaching them. But I think because of the four of them, their love, their brotherly love, they are expressing themselves differently than what their father wants. However, they still do fall in line with what their father wants too. It's really interesting family dynamic, and it got me in the feels because I understand a father talking to you like that. And you're kind of like, because I was raised that way, where it's like, suck it up, be strong. You know what I'm saying? We don't cry. And yeah, I totally understood it. And like, yeah, you know what? You're in the gym, you're lifting the big stones, you're out there hammering stuff and making houses and like doing all this physical stuff because of your father, right? So maybe really, the characters, one, the emotional thinking process that you have after you watch this film, definitely number two. And I kind of just wanted to break down the curse. Like, I like the whole concept of this family curse, okay? And that's what the main story is all about, the family curse. This is a family curse that Fritz von Erich believes started with his grandma. Like, that's where the curse begins, right? And he firmly believes that his family is cursed, and that is why they've never been able to be prosperous and never get the opportunities that other people around them, i.e. wrestlers, got, that the Von Erichs never got, right? And that's how his father perceives the curse, as from a business side of things. But really, the father is the curse. He really is the curse because of what he does. And like, if you sit down and think about this curse, and as you watch the movie and how everything unfolds, you see that the curse is all about trauma. That is what the curse is in this film. The curse is family generational trauma passed down from family member to family member, and it gets to Kevin, and that is where the curse ends. And it's because he does something, I'm not going to say what it is, but he breaks the curse, and he breaks the generational trauma that he has received from his father, and he's not passing it on to his children. And it's really, really interesting. And I liked it. I just liked it. I was sitting there, as soon as that happened, there's the scene that happens, and you're like, that is cool. Another thing that I liked in this movie, I liked the wrestling. I thought the wrestling looked incredibly believable. And just coming from watching actors become wrestlers and doing wrestling moves, because I've watched a ton of wrestling my whole life, and I thought that was really cool. I liked the, just all the wrestling. I just liked all the wrestling. I thought it was super entertaining. And the final thing that I liked was I really liked the relationship between Pam, who's played by Lily James, and Kevin Von Erich, right? Like she's the rock to his world, and he is falling apart. There are moments in this movie where stuff is happening, and he is literally falling apart. And she's there for him. She's there for him the entire way, and she's doing everything she can to help him get out of this rut. And it's concerning because you may think he might do something to himself, but he doesn't. And I think that is awesome. And you know what? Okay, there's one more thing that I really, 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 really liked in this movie. And some people might think it's stupid and it might turn them off. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is a spoiler. So you might want to just skip ahead like a minute. I'm going to be really quick with it. But I loved the scene. Man, I just don't want to ruin it, but I love the scene where Carrie meets his family in the afterlife. I love that scene. He's on a boat. He puts a coin down in the boat like he's paying the ferryman, and he sees his brothers and they reunite, and I'm just like, oh man, that teared me up a little bit. I have to mention that scene. It's my favorite scene in the whole freaking movie. I loved it. Such a good scene. And you're just like, damn. I still think about it. Man, I love that scene. Anyways, man, this movie's great. It really is. I have only one bad thing in this movie, and it's not that bad. You know what I'm saying? But there is a son that is omitted from the family. Now, the family is a family of 5 brothers. They're technically 6. But one of them dies at a very, very young age, and that is mentioned. However, there is a 5th brother, the youngest brother, who is Chris, and he's not in the movie. And I totally understand it by adding him in. One, it's more of the same, right? Like, the family curse is all about death. And Chris is a part of that curse, right? It's more of the same. And I believe, it would totally pad that run time to probably like 2:45 if you want to get more of that in it. So I understand why you omit him, because it's more of the same. And the story is still tight without him. However, it kind of sucks if no one ever does the research on the Von Erichs, that Chris will be kind of erased from history, so to speak. Like, especially if people take this movie as 100% fact. That's a downside, that's a bummer to me. Aside from that, that's it. Like, there's nothing else that I hated in this movie. The Ric Flair promo was funny because, as someone who watches pro wrestling, we know how Ric Flair is. So seeing an actor act as Ric Flair and kind of not do it perfectly, it's kind of funny, but I still appreciated it. So that was like, I was just sitting there, I'm like, that's interesting. This is an actor's portrayal of Ric Flair, and that was cool. But like, it's a nitpick, if anything. I don't know. It didn't take me out of the movie. I actually enjoyed seeing Ric Flair there. I was like, oh, that's cool. They put him in here. But yeah, so aside from any of that, great movie. I highly recommend you go see it. Like I already said, see it fresh as possible. You know what I'm saying? Like, try to avoid everything and just go and see this movie. Take your friends, take your loved ones, make it a date night. It's perfect for that. You're going to cry. Bring some Kleenex. Will I buy this movie when it comes out? 100%. We haven't had a good wrestling movie since The Wrestler, and this is right up there with that. Like, it's damn good. So I definitely will buy that movie. And that's the end. I'm out of here. I'm going to be working on my top 10 lists of best and worst movies and anticipated movies for 2024. So those will be coming out in a couple weeks. So yeah, that's it for me. So whatever movies you are watching, I hope you're loving them and digging them. I'm out of here. Peace out, guys.